Well, good evening, everyone. Tonight is a night that we celebrate Maundy Thursday, a night when Jesus gathered with his disciples. And tonight we're unable to gather with each other, and yet we're gathering throughout a virtual means. And I pray that as we gather in this means of recording a service, that we will hear each other's connectivity and be able to continue that connectivity through the days ahead. Our gospel for Maundy Thursday comes from the Gospel of John. Now, before the festival of the Passover, Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart from this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The devil had already put into the heart of Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, to betray him. And during supper, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going to God, got up from the table, took off his outer robe, and tied a towel around himself. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel that was tied around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus answered, "You do not know now what I am doing, but later you will understand." Peter said to him, "You will never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no share with me." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head." Jesus said to him, "One who is bathed does not need to wash, except for the feet, but is entirely clean. And you are clean, though not all of you." For he knew who was to betray him. For this reason he said, "Not all of you are clean." After he had washed their feet, had put on his robe, and had returned to the table, he said to them, "Do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, for that is what I am. So if I, your teacher and Lord, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have set to you an example, that you should also do as I have done to you. Very truly, I tell you, servants are not greater than their master, nor are messengers greater than those who sent them. If you know these things, you are blessed if you do them. Now the Son of Man has been glorified, and God has been glorified in him. If God has been glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself and will glorify him at once. Little children, I am with you only a little longer. You will look for me, and as I said to the Jews, so now I say to you, where I am going, you cannot come. I give you a new commandment, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also should love one another. By this, everyone will know you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. This is the gospel of Christ. Jesus spoke these words and had these actions when he was together with his disciples. And for many of us, as we have gathered throughout the years with the churches in our buildings and in our places, we have been able to celebrate many of these same traditions and thoughts. We have been able to celebrate our Eucharist. We have been able to wash each other's feet, to be there with each other and to challenge one another to be servants and to find that humility and humbleness that Christ did on that night. But this year isn't quite the same. We have had those times to gather, but now we are isolated. And Christ knew about that isolation, because after this supper, he walks to the garden. And as he walks to that garden, he is feeling that sense of aloneness and understanding what that might be experienced as. He knows where this road is leading, and he is seeking within his heart to find that place where he sees the solace and the understanding of his disciples. He will continue to ask them to stay awake with him all night. And we too are doing the exact same thing in our isolations. As we are away from each other in a physical sense, and we are physically distanced from each other, we're also asking people to stay with us. Stay with us in our joys and in our sorrows, to stay with us in the pain that we experience, the losses in our lives, and yet also to celebrate our birthdays and births and all the special occasions that are happening. Jesus knew about this isolation. He understood it, understood that people wanted to be there. And the message that I believe Christ would say to us right now, it's that we will never, ever be alone. Christ says to us in our faith, Christ says to us in our hearts, that he knows the isolation that we experience, and he is here with us every step along the way. And as communities of faith, we show that to each other. I pray tonight that as we sing the next hymn, that you may feel that aloneness of walking alone to the garden. But you may also know that there is compassion being spread out to this world, that we are all connected, that faith is here, that Christ is here, and we are all awake with one another on this evening. Amen.
I come to the garden alone while the dew is still on the rose, and the voice I hear falling on my ear, the Son of God discloses. And he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share as we tarry there, none another has ever known. He speaks, and the sound of his voice is so sweet. The birds hush their singing, and the melody that he gave to me within my heart is ringing. And he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own, and the joy we share has everything no other has ever known. I stay in the garden with him, though the night around me be falling, and he bids me go the voice of woe, his voice to me is calling. And he walks with me, and he talks with me, and he tells me I am his own. And the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known. And the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever